Tuttle here. It's storm season in Oklahoma, and with that comes torrential rain, high winds, and hail. To protect your home and your family from these threats, the one roofing company you should trust is Ferguson Roof Systems. They've been providing the best in roofing services for nearly half a century. Ferguson is Oklahoma's full-service roofing company, certified with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and a 5-star rating on Google. And with Ferguson now offering Class 4 impact-resistant shingles, now is the time to trust them with your home's roof. Get started today at FergusonRoofSystems.com.
Hey everyone, Meteorologist and Tuttle back with you again. It's almost been a week. We've had some quiet weather around here for a while, so that was nice. Question is, are we going to get some stormy weather back? So if you kind of saw my earlier post on social media, I alluded to the fact that sometimes you're overpromised and it's underdelivered when it comes to talking about storms. And the reason why, I mean, you guys have to realize I follow a lot of weather accounts on social media for like Twitter and stuff to get information. So a lot of times I don't even know who these people are. Just if it's a scientist, good information, it's great. But then a lot of times, sometimes like Twitter will just show me other people's feeds because it thinks I want to see it, right? Because it's weather. So it's going to show me random people I don't even follow. And there's a lot of people out there, the storm chaser community, a lot of the weather weenies out there, some of the Mets, you know, they do get a little excited, and they hem and haw and hoot and holler and go, watch out. This is the most potent setup we've seen since the analog of 1934. And if we compare it to what happened back in 1973, and we look at this, what happened in 1952, you know, and this is like looking at something that's 7 or 8 days away. It's so ridiculous. So I see that stuff, and that's what spawned my post. I said, look, don't get worked up over that stuff. Besides that, what are you going to do differently, right? Day to day, you're in and out normal activities for the next 8 days. What do you do, freaking out about it? No, man, you're not going to worry about all that stuff. So that's kind of why I made a post about that. So if you're kind of curious as to where all that came from, that was it. I'm just getting my little camera set up here because, in case you guys haven't noticed, there's some brightness out there. We've had some planets here that are pretty close this time of the year that you can kind of see with the naked eye. And obviously it'd be nice to see if you can see the entire planet. We have to have telescopes for that. But we can at least see, like, you know, big bright balls of light in the sky. How about that at nighttime? So I think this might be Venus I've zoomed in on. I'm not sure. I just saw a big one and zoomed in real quick. But it's cold out there, 47 degrees. And we have some clear skies, at least now. We're going to have some clouds that will roll in here overnight tonight. And then we'll have another cold night, though. We'll be in the 30s across many areas. I'll show you that as well. So if you have plants a little early, you know, earlier than what you're supposed to, keep in mind you typically will have to kind of cover things up as we go into April, because somewhere, usually, at some point, we get a cold front that sneaks in here and it kind of hoses things. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. That can happen this year. But otherwise, most nights will be fine. Just kind of make sure you have something to kind of, you know, cover them up, protect them if you need to. Okay, so let's see. By the way, you guys, thanks for tuning in on Rumble, on Twitter, on Facebook, and YouTube. By the way, on Facebook here, I put in the option where you can opt in to get notifications directly from me through your Facebook Messenger, that way you don't miss anything. So take advantage of that. Several hundred of you do that, and I always send you a message when I go live, such as like this, for example, right now. But anyways, you click that little link, and then you have to do it every so often, otherwise Facebook will kick you out. That's just the nature of the beast. But anyways, you guys, again, thanks for tuning in on all the social media platforms, and especially on YouTube. Love seeing the comments, both on Facebook and in YouTube. Give me a like, hit the button, type in there, you know, are you ready for spring? Because, you know, the calendar says it's here. Are you over the cold weather? So let's find out. Let's get on with the forecast, see what we got here for you for the next couple of days. All right, so here's a look at the Storm Prediction Center outlook for Thursday. A lot of green on the map. Now, if you read my blog on Sunday, I talked about this. I said it's the Storm Prediction's job to look far into the future to try to find something that might be in the form of severe weather. So if we look here on Sunday, they had highlighted Thursday and Friday. Of course, Thursday was getting all wee-weed up because, you know, ooh, I've never seen something this strong, this far out. They had a big risk, blah, 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 30% hatch, yada, yada, yada. You see a lot of that talk on the internet. Anytime you see that talk on the internet, just throw it away. Hit delete, ignore, scroll on by, whatever. The reason why I want to tell you that, because what happened was it goes from that to this. we lost the big yellow, for slight. We've got the green for marginal. So marginal means standard typical thunderstorms around here, not even that severe, or the threat for severe is so low they can't even put it in a slight. Now that could still change as we head, into the next 24-hour period, but for right now, it's on the very low end. So the Weather Service kind of highlighted this here in green across the state. And it's your typical hazard you would see this time of the year with any severe thunderstorm. Yes, it's large hail. Yes, it's damaging winds. And yes, on occasional, an isolated tornado. So that's just our springtime. It's just what happens. The atmosphere likes to rotate this time of the year. So it's nothing unheard of. It's just man, guys don't need 8 days in a row of here's the next system. And then it comes here and it's a big dud. And then it's geared up for the next storm system 7 days from now. Because it's usually in week cycles, right? 1 week at a time. So you really don't need all that nonsense. So that's why I've kind of got my soapbox here for tonight. Also for Tulsa, same idea. There's no green shading. And then on Friday, there's a little bit better chance of severe weather across the eastern third of the state into Arkansas. I mentioned that in my blog as well. So that's kind of the big take home I want to tell you. When you see those outlooks and risks, grain of salt until you get to about a 48-hour window. Then that's when things are pretty much set in stone. And then we fine-tune things in that next 24-hour window to kind of get your specific, threats and the exact position and the timing and all that kind of stuff. Well, here's a look at the jet stream pattern with the look at the upper level vorticity. In other words, the spin of the atmosphere that creates the storm systems down here where we live and breathe. Here's a big one coming off the coastline of California, but they've been getting slammed. You're talking about rain, you're talking about snow. That drought out there is over. They've had, I think, 3 huge events here this year for this season. All right, so let's going to move on into the Four Corners area by, Thursday afternoon. Just now kind of getting into this region with the energy level, which means we are way over here, which means it is too far away. So this system is too slow. And so that way, that risk out here that was once highlighted is now evaporating because we just don't have a whole lot of brutal force in the upper levels of the atmosphere to get things going. And as we head into Friday, I'll go into the afternoon hours. So there is the late afternoon into the early evening, big low pressure area up here across Iowa, which means most of your severe weather with this one will be up across this area near Chicago and the upper Midwest. It does trail across Missouri into Arkansas and southeast Oklahoma. This little energy does affect this area, but it's pretty weak comparatively speaking. So this Thursday and Friday for our neck of the woods is not all that potent, is what I'm trying to say. We do look at the lift, a little few, I don't know, like 10,000, let's see, 10, so about another 5,000 or 6,000 feet below where we were just looking. This is where the lift on the dry line is going to occur for late Friday. This is at the 0Z time frame, which means 7 p.m. So in other words, it's going to take all day for that to occur and for things to kind of line up. That usually means it's late to the party. So we go into the overnight period. There is some lift overnight, kind of hit and miss across the state here, especially toward the early morning hours. So the question is, we at least see a couple of thunderstorms overnight Thursday night to Friday morning? That's the question. By Friday afternoon, most of that lift is out here across, like I said, barely clips Oklahoma by the late day into northeastern Texas and Arkansas, and it's not that robust. Most of the lift is up here across Missouri, where you see the darker colors, and in far northern Arkansas. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of I don't say a nothing burger, but it's pretty for a storm system in spring, it's pretty lame. All right, so let's take a look here at the dew point values. By the way, we are into the 30s and 20s. It is dry out there. It feels great. Now, where's that deep moisture? All the colors in the green and the purple, they start to surge out of the Gulf of Mexico by late afternoon into the evening hours. So here is 7 o'clock. I'll stop it right here at 7. They are just now nosing into southwest Oklahoma. This is the dew point values in the 60s. Where again, we really need to get those in there to get the good severe weather. Out here in the Panhandle, you do have dew point values in the 50s. They can get away with those lower dew points to get some storms. But if you notice here, the wind field, see this kind of a southeast wind and a south, maybe southwest wind along what is basically, let me see, let's go this guy right here. What is the dry line? All right, so there's not a lot of convergence in the dry line. So yeah, we may have some mid-level lift associated with the dry line circulation, but we just don't have a lot of low-level convergence. I talked about this in my blog, and we don't have really a whole lot of moisture. So the problem is, with all that in play in the storm system way out west, the odds of getting the storms to fire up in this area and break the dry line are pretty slim. Now, if they can, and I do mean if they can, a couple of thunderstorms may get going and they could work their way into southwest Oklahoma or western Oklahoma after or near dark, and probably even fall apart, especially if the cap builds. So I mentioned all this in my blog on Sunday, and we're just looking at Thursday. So this is, again, Tuesday night data. So we're just now getting into the better data window. Now, what I will say is, for whatever reason, should we get a rogue thunderstorm, something that's just gangbusters down here that moves across, say, southwest Oklahoma overnight around midnight hours, kind of in the eastern part, I just don't think it's going to hold together very long because we've got a very strong cap in place. So I just don't think a whole lot's going to happen overnight for Thursday night, the way the model data is looking right now, at least in the moisture, etc. If we do look at the SEN, which is the capping layer, we do have a weakness. Let's go back here to around 7 o'clock. So we do have a little bit of a weakness in this zone. And so that's why I say there might be a couple of thunderstorms trying to develop. But as we go into time, as these colors fill back in, that means the cap strengthens all in this area. Where it's going to be hard for any storm to survive and move through. So that's why I'm not really all excited about Thursday. Probably some elevated showers in the morning for you, maybe a little bit of sprinkles throughout the day. So here's Thursday afternoon and evening with the shear and cape overlaid. You can see all this activity's out here focused into the Panhandle region. We barely get a little bit of instability here in southwest Oklahoma. You can probably barely make it out, a little gray shading. Now we do get more instability overnight. So if we go into the midnight hour, towards 6 a.m., for example, we'll just stop it there at 7 a.m. So there is some better instability now in Oklahoma City at Friday morning at 7 a.m. But you know how hard it is to get thunderstorms, in the early morning hours, especially severe weather with the threat of tornadoes. It's not impossible, but it's pretty low. Now, I will grant this. By this time, the upper level storm system is moving to the east. So I'm just saying, should we get some type of elevated thunderstorm activity overnight Thursday late toward daybreak Friday morning, the cap does erode about that same time. So it's theoretically possible we could get a surface-based thunderstorm that would rotate, potentially, possibly, a low-wind tornado or something like that for Friday morning here across this sweet spot of the I-35 corridor. It's extremely low probability. It's not zero, but it's extremely low. If we do look at the model output, other than, let's go back to the Thursday morning hours. You see the indication of maybe some sprinkles out there across the eastern half of the state. So kind of cloudy, a little bit cooler. But if we look out west, there. You see that? If you blinked, you missed it. There's 9 p.m. At least the model tried to get something going out there, but it didn't make it. Let's go to 4, 5, 6 o'clock. All right, so about the time that the atmosphere is a little bit better, conducive, the model still doesn't produce any storms, which is good. We don't want any storms if they're going to have potential for anything too severe. So that's kind of the way the weather's looking. I could show you some other data, but that's pretty much the synopsis of it. If we do look at temperatures, though, like I mentioned tonight, we're going to have some clouds roll through for a while. They should break up just in time for early morning, which would allow us to kind of bottom out a little bit. So we should be into the 30s across a good chunk of northwestern Oklahoma, so pretty much bounded by the I-35 and I-40 corridor. Some of these values will be into the 20s, so again, if you plan it, you're in trouble out there, but you should have done that anyway because it's not Easter yet. You know the rules. You don't print till Easter across at least the northern or at least the northwestern quadrant of the state. Southern and southeastern Oklahoma, you can get away with it some years. It's always a gut call if you're really just that desperate, right? 5 o'clock in the afternoon, though, like I say, we're in the 60s across state for our Wednesday. I'll go ahead and show you the temperatures repeat for Thursday morning. Not nearly as cold, 40s and 50s. And then Thursday, actually, it's not too bad of a day. We're going to be still, like I mentioned, the sprinkles, some off and on clouds. We'll be in the 60s again, probably lower 60s. So really the heat is out there across the Panhandle once you get west of Amarillo and Dalhart. So both days in the 60s, humidity slowly recovering and increasing. And then Friday morning, we're in the mid-60s. So juicy, sticky, warm, 65. But then we'll have that cold front come in during the afternoon, bringing the drier air again. And we repeat this little rocket and rolling roller coaster ride. So we'll probably help to heat us up a little bit for Friday with drier air coming in before the cooler air arrives by Saturday morning. So again, 60s, mid-60s at that for Wednesday and Thursday. Possibly low 70s for Friday. Overnight lows obviously get quite a bit warmer because of the increase in humidity, etc. And then on Saturday, nice, cool, chilly start, but a pretty decent finish. The weekend looks fantastic. So that's mid-60s on Saturday with some sun, and also on Sunday. And then, look at that, 80s for Monday and Tuesday. Whoa. And then overnight, we do kind of get more of a moderating trend. I still have to caution you, though, up through the middle of April, sometimes you can get a little surprise around here when it gets kind of a chance to get to overnight low temperatures. So that's kind of what I want to show you here. So I don't really anticipate anything unless something changes the model data for our Thursday night and Friday time frame. And then when it comes to Friday afternoon, yeah, some thunderstorms out there across far eastern Oklahoma into Arkansas. And some of those may have a little bit of hail and wind with them. I think the shear profiles are probably going to behave for anything that would be particularly tornadic. And that would be mostly confined up across the upper Midwest, Iowa, all that kind of stuff. So that's where that would be. As far as the following week goes, I can tell you that signals come and go. Storm systems will continue to kind of come off the western coastline. So we are in an active pattern. But I have to, of course, caution, to start this broadcast with, that doesn't necessarily translate into Armageddon. An active pattern can mean rainfall, which we desperately need. An active pattern can just mean winds gusting up, which, by the way, it'll be quite windy behind this system on, Thursday and Friday. So that transition period, the winds will kick up, as usual. And then, if things go just right, sure, we can get some hail, we get some wind. If things go extremely right, which is about a 24 to 48 hour window when we find out all the really juicy details in that, then yeah, you could probably get a couple of tornadoes out of an event that comes through. But that's, like I said, that's standard. We're in the middle or toward the end now of March, so that's par for the course into early April. But just because you see some people on the internet say, watch out, we got a bit of active pattern, storm system after storm system, tornadoes are going to be more likely. That's a bunch of nonsense, just so you know. We call that wish casting versus forecasting. It's a hope, it's a prayer, because these people want that kind of stuff because they chase it, they enjoy it, whatever. But that's the weather community. So a lot of this stuff was never really shown. It's like the Wizard of Oz curtain. You never got to see the wizard. And now everybody wants to be a wizard. Once you unveil the curtain, you're like, you're an idiot, So you just kind of keep that in mind. There's a lot of people out there that get really excited and worked up. Unfortunately, that translates into a lot of unnecessary anxiety and panic. So if you're one of those that suffer PTSD from a prior tornado event, you might want to tune that stuff out. Just either unfollow, turn it off, or scroll on by really quickly. If there's ever going to be a threat, that I can foresee for tornadoes, obviously I'll tell you as soon as possible. But again, my window for my rules about 48 hours out. Beyond that, yeah, we could talk about a storm system. We could talk about some thunderstorms coming or some rain coming. But I usually don't get too detailed beyond that time period because too much can change. You have to have very specific ingredients and things have to go just right. And most of the time, there are setups where it looks like things will be just right, and you don't even know it till the day of, and it's a bust, and it didn't even do what the atmosphere is supposed to do. So keep that in mind. Just like it can do what we think it's going to do, yeah, we can have those times, and just like we can have the opposite. It's like, for example, the tornadoes that happened in Mississippi last weekend on the blog. If you haven't checked it out, AaronTuttleWeather.com, I did kind of a little mini recap. I didn't go in too depth in the damage part because everybody kind of knows what an EF3 or EF4 tornado can do. But I kind of showed you how the science has progressed a little bit to allow us to forecast for tornadoes in the short term on radar as to how strong they're going to be, the exact position, how we can verify there's a tornado with the debris signature. So I kind of hit on that more, especially because nighttime forecasting for tornadoes is very difficult. When you're looking at radar coverage, cause you don't have a whole lot of eyes in the sky at that point, so that's always a challenge. So the technology improvements that we've had in radar meteorology has allowed us to kind of visualize the atmosphere differently with some new products, and so that's one of those. It's very popular, and I was very pleased to see some of the. I guess somebody recorded little screen records of the local TV guys in that part of the country. And they were actually using radar, which is great. They were actually using velocity, which is great. And they were actually using the tornado debris signature, which is like a little blue ball that goes across. And I can tell you, that's come a long way. Like 10 years ago, everybody was afraid to use velocity. Half these guys even know what a radar was, even though they're meteorologists or weather people. They weren't trained, so they were afraid to talk about it or afraid to show it because they didn't really know what they're looking at. All that's gradually changed, which is great. So that was good to see those kind of products being shown, which means that those people in those areas had more information, in today's times than they had in the past. Unfortunately, from what I'm understanding with the rolling part situation was they didn't have a tornado siren in the town. That was an issue from what I understand. The town only had, I think, 1,800 people in it. And people were kind of going about their normal evening on Friday like they normally would. And they didn't even know it was coming. And that's troubling, right? In our field, we would never want that situation. Sure, they had local TV guys, covering it. But once you're, unplugged and not plugging in, it's going to be hard. So you don't carry around a weather radio with you in your pocket, right? So no weather radio, you don't have that. That's at home. If there's not a tornado siren, well, you don't have your last minute, hey, dummy, there's something coming. I don't know what you've been doing, but you're living under a rock. Go seek some shelter. So you don't have that. So that means all you're left with is your weather app on your phone, or maybe the emergency siren, the emergency broadcast that'll be on your phone. So that's all you have left. So depending on how you treat your phone, if you have it on mute, or if you have the volume too low, you might miss some of those things. So I had a couple of AT's Weather to Go app users in that town. Their icons are still on the map and they haven't moved, but they're hard coded. In other words, they entered a location in that town, whether it be a business or a home, but they haven't had any significant or communication rebuilt in that area for a cell phone, etc. So I may not get to know how they fared out. Hopefully they're okay, and hopefully the app did it really well and warned them ahead of time and gave them advance notice that they could seek shelter. There were about, I had checked recently, a couple days ago though, I think 26 people had died, or 28 in that town. But that's out of 1,800. Remember, it went right through the town, an EF3 to EF4 at times. That's still incredible, to not lose that many people once you saw what the damage pack did. We here in Oklahoma, we've seen it. It's incredible. Anytime somebody survives a tornado and we've seen what's left, I mean, it's nothing but sticks, and just debris. You're like, how did you survive that? I mean, it does happen. So it's always just amazing to see that outcome. So I wish I get in touch with them. I don't know who they are. They just show up as little pins on the map. So everybody that uses my app, I don't know anything about you. I just know that you use it. I know your general location, and that's about it. So like I said, I can send you a message. I can circle you and go, hey, I don't know who you are, but I saw you use my app and you're living here. So there's a tornado coming, so get out of the way, or I hope you're okay. So I can do that behind the scenes with the interface that I have. But after the fact, it's kind of unsettling when you know that those areas, were hit hard by a tornado. When I look back at the Norman tornado event, and I had a ton of my mobile app users in the path of the tornado that went through Norman there a few weeks ago. So all of them should have gotten advance warning of a twisting storm alert and sought shelter. So that was good. I mean, that was a significant tornado that went through and did some damage. But the goal is to never lose a single life, no matter how you're able to do that. So there you go. All right. Well, that was about it for me. I want to give you just the scoop on what was going on. I know at this time of the year, you're always going to hear a lot of talk about, storms several days away. But let you know that even up to the last day, things can change a lot, and sometimes the threat can evaporate before our eyes. So grain of salt until you get closer to the event, and then just have a plan in place. Don't even sweat it, because remember, it's a needle in a haystack. It's a big haystack out there. So odds of you becoming affected are very, very small on the probability scale of statistics. So the statistics are always in your favor in general. So what I try to do is try to outline where those tiny probabilities will be and the timing and all that kind of stuff. So that's about it for me. Okay, guys. Appreciate your comments tonight, as always, on Facebook and YouTube. And your support by just liking, sharing the video, telling your friends and family about AT's Weather, downloading my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. All that's good. It helps you stay safe from the storms. And I'll continue to do what I do. And we will talk with you at another night. All right. Sweet dreams, everybody. Take care.